What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training. And today we're going to be breaking down how I would correct bad throwing mechanics. So we're going to be looking at clips here from Tim Tebow. We're going to be talking about his flawed throwing mechanics back when he was in high school and early college/NFL days. And we're going to be comparing that to Tom Brady's throwing mechanics and Aaron Rodgers' throwing mechanics and how I would go about correcting his mechanics, okay? So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it explains some of the most common quarterback mistakes that we see in today's day and age. Hope this video helps you guys out. But also, fellas, if you guys are local to one of these 9 cities listed on the screen here, Tampa, Florida, Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California, check out that very first link in the description below for more information on our 2-day quarterback and wide receiver training camps we're going to be hosting this offseason. We're in Tampa, Florida right now, so that one you cannot sign up for, but every other camp, Houston, all the way down to Los Angeles, we'd love to have you out. Spots are going to be limited to only 10 guys per position group. So again, we're keeping it small so we can actually take the time to coach you guys. So check out that very first link in the description below. If you want to come get some work in with us and my staff this offseason, let's get started with this video. So first clip here we're looking at is Tebow throwing from the pocket, right? So everybody, one of the most highly criticized throwing motions of all time, and, you know, probably for good reason. I love Tim Tebow. I'm a huge fan of the guy, but again, the way he throws the ball was not the prettiest thing in the world and was not the most efficient thing in the world, right? So when he's in the pocket, the number one mistake that you see with so many quarterbacks nowadays is their weight distribution before the throw. So many guys talk about weight transfer. So many guys talk about hip drive, hip rotation, but they don't understand that the pre-throw position is what leads to that, right? So when Tebow's back here in the pocket, you see how he's very front leg heavy. He's got probably about 60 to 70% of his weight on the front side of his body. You want to have that be the opposite. You want your back leg to have about 65 to 70% of its weight on that leg. Reason being because if you don't have any weight to transfer from the back leg to the front leg, what's going to end up happening is your back leg's going to trail behind because you're not driving, your sequence is off, the timing of the sequence is off, and you're making this thing an arm throw. So let's talk about it, right? So when we got all, and we're going to look at a throw from Tom Brady, who does a great job of this, right, in a second. So when he's got all this weight on the front foot, when he goes to step into the throw, that your weight should be going through like right there. Like you should be transferring your weight when that ball is going back in this L position right here because that hip rotation is what brings the arm up to that 90 degree, right? But because we already have his weight because of his pre-throw position, he has too much weight on his front side. He doesn't have any weight to transfer. So that back leg doesn't really have any kind of like drive. It doesn't really have any kind of rotation. You're not turning that knee through. You're not pivoting that back foot. So your back foot's going to trail way behind because it doesn't have enough weight. And so guess what's going to happen? Your shoulders are going to end up beating your hips, and that's going to put a ton of stress on your elbow, your shoulder, because you are throwing this thing solely with your upper half. So in this clip of Tebow, what I would do to fix this is I would tell him, hey, you want to try to get more weight on your back leg and close your back leg down. So your back foot should not be landing outside of your shoulder. Your back foot should be landing underneath your back shoulder. And instead of like having your weight just like even, you would want to shift your upper body weight backwards just a tad, right? So you'd really want to sit on that back leg, almost like you're standing on one leg, like you're standing on your left leg and then you have to jump and catch yourself on your right leg and all your weight's on that right leg. That's how you should really think about standing, because if your weight can stay back like that, that weight transfer, you shifting your weight through, will help your hips naturally rotate through into the motion and give you more power on the ball, more consistency, more accuracy, because you won't feel the need to dip your front side, which we'll get into, right? So it's watch thing again, full speed. So that's the main thing. You want 70% of your weight on the back leg. You want to be light on your front leg so you don't have that leaning forward motion where your back leg trails behind. A lot of the times guys get that from having too wide of a back foot. You got to make sure that your back foot is like right where Tebow's is right here, and we're sitting on that back foot. But as long as we get that weight going forward, that weight shifted forward, we're going to have no power from that backside or that back hip. Let's watch it again, full speed. Just got to make sure, fellas, that we are using my lower half to get engaged to this throw. So let's look at this clip from Brady here. So this is probably the polar opposite in terms of throwing mechanics. So you see when he's working through in the pocket, look at his back leg. Back leg is underneath the back shoulder. His back knee has some weight to it. He's absorbing the weight on this backside. You see how his upper half is kind of shifted backwards. This is what's going to engage his hips into the throw. And you see how light he is on the front foot. With Tebow, it was the opposite, right? It was like you take his whole backside right here, like how his weight's shifted back, how he's got a bend to his back knee, and make that the front side. He had the opposite, right? So the problem with that is there's no weight to transfer. You have no power. You're going to have no torque on the throw because you have no hip rotation, right? So you see when Brady goes to make this throw, all he's thinking about is, he's not thinking about it right now in a game, but if he were thinking about his throwing mechanics, that's what I mean by when I say that, he's thinking about transferring. He's thinking about shifting that weight to that front leg. And now you see, because that weight transfer right there, him transferring the weight here, that's what gets his hips to roll through. The weight transfer and you getting weight to the outside part of this foot, that's what gets your knee to drive through. That's what gets that back foot to come through. That's what gets the hips right here to come through before the football. You saw when Tebow threw this thing, that back foot was trailing behind. His hips never once rotated, and those shoulders were gone before the ball was gone, right? Or the shoulders were there before the hips even got a chance to rotate through. But simply because Brady was in this great pre-throw position and he was able to transfer that weight, that will get the front hip to open up. And when the front hip opens up, your back knee will drive through, your back hip will come through. And when all that can come through before the football, that will give you power. So that's how I would go about correcting that bad habit. When you have all that weight on your front foot like that, shift your weight back. Get your back foot underneath that frame, and you're thinking about transferring your weight to get your hips to rotate through, to come through before that football. That's one of the biggest mistakes that you see in today's era of football with so many quarterbacks, is that they've never been taught that. Everybody teaches hip drive. Everybody teaches hip rotation, but do they actually teach the proper pre-throw position to be able to get to that hip rotation? No. And the answer is no. So many guys don't know how to teach it. So many guys don't have a clue at what they're teaching because they don't know how the body works. The body works like that, fellas. The body works with your weight staying back, you transferring through, and once you see it right now with this example, you can't unsee it. When you're watching football on Sundays, you see it, you're like, man, Aaron Rodgers is really sitting on that back leg. That back leg's under his frame, and he's able to get his hips through. And then you go watch high school football, and you're like, man, that quarterback needs to get a lot more weight on that back leg. That's why that ball's dying on him. That's why that ball doesn't have that much velocity. That's why you see youth quarterbacks that have you see it commonly every year. More injuries pop up for quarterbacks, more elbow injuries, more shoulder injuries, because they have flawed mechanics and they're not using that lower half. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Brady transferring that weight, getting those hips to make that throw, and taking that quick front stride also. So now we're going to be looking at this clip from Tebow. This is kind of like a famous clip, and I don't really care about the spin of the ball. Obviously, that's one thing. It's probably working on something. Again, it's snowing. Very tough to throw in the snow. Very tough to throw in those conditions. But I want to talk about his front elbow, okay? So let's watch the thing again, full speed. So his front elbow dips way down on this throw. And you see how he's here, pretty good like opposite L position that everybody loves to talk about getting to, right? Everybody thinks that that's just the be-all, end-all of playing the quarterback position, and it's not. But when you bring that elbow down like so and you swing that elbow down here, what that does is that flaws your release point, and that's going to make you not as accurate. You see how he has this very like high vertical release? This is obviously not where we want to get to, right? And that is solely predicated on the front elbow. So many quarterbacks, even nowadays with all the information that's out there about staying square, about the front arm, you know, how many NFL guys do we have to show you with that? Still, so many quarterbacks do this. They swing their elbow down for power, which brings the front hand up, right? The power comes from your lower body, like we were just talking about, that weight transfer, the hip drive. But when you guys are throwing, you want to think of your body like it's on a midline, right? So your body's got this spine going down the middle, right? You got a spine. Everybody has a spine. So you want to think of that when you throw, that you want to keep your spine completely vertical, right? So when you leave that elbow down, what do you think that happens? Your body's on that midline, like I'll draw like a little diagram right here. You bring your front elbow down, what do you think your release is going to do? Your release is going to go up, right? If you on this diagram right here, and let's say your shoulder goes this way, what do you think your release is going to do? It's going to fly out, and you're going to throw sidearm. That arm's going to fly, as we like to call it, right? So you see when Tebow, what he does here is he swings that elbow down. So how would you correct something like this? What you want to think of is that when you go back with that ball, you want to try to think that you're going to keep your hand right there, and you're going to try to bring your chest to your front hand. You want to rotate with that lower half. And again, Tebow probably had a flawed lower body mechanics on this, which leads to the upper half doing this, because that front arm swinging down, that will give you power. It for sure will give you power, but it's going to be not accurate power. It's going to be inaccurate power. And we're going to look at this clip from Aaron Rodgers here in a second, but you got to make sure that you are bringing the chest to your front hand so your release point can stay square. So let's look at this clip here from Aaron Rodgers now. So when Rodgers goes to make this throw, watch that front arm. You see how that front arm stays nice and tight to that frame. Chest to front hand, and you see how level he's able to stay. And look at his release point. clean 90-degree angle. He could just flick that wrist wherever he wants, but you see how disciplined he gets to. Because look, this is the same position that Tebow got to, but why did Tebow have such a flawed elbow? Because he wasn't bringing the chest to the front hand. He wasn't letting the lower half rotate him through like in that clip we saw from Brady. So that's how I would correct that problem with young quarterbacks is, hey, if you got that elbow that's swinging down, you want to keep that front hand almost by your face like you're eating a sandwich, and you're trying to bring your chest to your front hand. And you see what I'm talking about. You want to bring your chest to your front hand, because if you can bring chest to front hand, you stay level with your shoulders, you stay parallel to the target with your whole torso, you stay square, aka I can draw a square with my shoulders and with my hips, hand stays by my face like I'm eating a sandwich. That gives me a consistent release point where I could change up the arm angle if I had to, if I could throw darts if I need to. And when you combine this position with lower half rotation, it gives you that snap to the motion that we like to talk about, okay? So that's how I would go about correcting that problem for quarterbacks. If you like to swing that elbow, try to bring that chest to the front hand. Let's watch the thing again, full speed from Aaron Rodgers. Very beautiful front side on his throws and a very accurate passer, obviously. All right, guys, we want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I always appreciate the feedback, and obviously it's always great to hear from you guys. And again, if you guys are local to one of the 8 cities right here, Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California, we would love to have you out to one of our off-season camps for quarterbacks, wide receivers, and DBs. Spots are limited, filling up fast as well, fellas, so I don't want you guys to miss out on this opportunity. Check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.